The following is from Maurice Nicoll's Psychological Commentaries. This is book 3, and this talk was given on July the 20th, 1946, and is titled Inner Separation. The technique of inner separation must be developed by practice. At first it can be said that a person has no power over inner separation simply because he has no idea that it is possible and says "I" to everything. Nor has he an inkling that only along this path of inner separation, can he reach a higher level of himself, a new sense of "I." An ordinary person is in a state of sleep. This is emphasized by the work over and over again. People hear this said, but cannot see in what way it affects them. When the work says an ordinary person is asleep, it means that such a person takes himself not only as a conscious person, as a person who behaves consciously and knows what he is saying or doing, but also takes himself as one, that is, as a full-grown person, a solid I. He uses I in all he says or does as if he were doing it. In other words, he ascribes everything to himself. He ascribes his feelings, moods, thoughts, sensations, and his speech, behavior, and actions to himself, and even his digestion. This is what the work means when it says that such a person is asleep. He is asleep because he ascribes everything to himself and has no sense of anything higher than himself or higher in himself. The first step in redemption from sleep is to begin to realize through uncritical self-observation that thoughts come to a man, feelings and moods come to him, sensations come to him with all their resulting actions, and that in this respect he is a machine in whose complex machinery he participates wrongly at every moment, saying I. By saying I in this way, he ascribes everything to himself. The realization that one is a machine is underlined in this teaching as the first step towards inner freedom and individual evolution. As long as a man or woman, that is, this man-machine or woman-machine that everyone, man or woman ordinarily is, ascribes every psychic process, every thought, mood and action and so on, to himself, he cannot advance one single step. He is fixed in his illusions. He then serves nature, that is, the cosmic influences that use mankind for their own reasons, without pity, as we so clearly see today. The sin of man is, so to speak, to miss the mark, to identify with himself. In the allegory in Genesis, man ate of the tree of knowledge, and thenceforward thought he knew what was right and wrong. That is, he began to ascribe everything to himself. I will add here how extraordinary it is that the early chapters of Genesis are regarded as literal and not psychological. The attack of science on religion in the last century was based on the early chapters of Genesis, which were taken as literal, that is, there was an actual tree and actual 7 days of creation, etc. Now this ascribing of everything to oneself, which is identification in its deepest form, leads a person to the idea that everything is due to him or her. Inner separation leads to an entirely different state, a new idea of oneself. As we are all so heavily engaged in ascribing everything to ourselves, and so identify with every mood, thought, feeling and so on that happens in us, we must continually be reminded by this work that this ordinary everyday state of ourselves is utterly wrong. It is totally wrong from top to bottom. It is a state of total sleep, and from this state of total sleep, through self-identifying, the work endeavours to rouse us. This arousing is the beginning of awakening. You have no thoughts of your own, although you ascribe them to yourself. Your thoughts come to you. You have no feelings of your own. Your feelings arise mechanically according to circumstances and your typical machinery of reaction. For example, you sob and sigh mechanically. It is not you sobbing and sighing, it sobs and sighs. It is the particular sort of machine that you have acquired that causes these sobs and sighs. You identify with this acquired machinery and weep and wail just because this is how your particular machine reacts. But you think it is you, that is, I, sobbing and sighing. This is not the case. It is your machinery sobbing and sighing, to which you say I. Another kind of machine, acquired under quite different conditions in another country, would not sob and sigh when you do, but sob and sigh under quite different circumstances that you might marvel at and consider a joke. But if there is no conception, no insight into oneself, then of course you will continue to take your mechanical reactions as you, as I, and so ascribe them to yourself. How, then, can you ever awaken to a new edition, a new form of yourself? It is obviously impossible. You will remain at the level of being that you are at. But this work is to raise being. Have any of you thought enough yet as to what a step in level of being might be? What do you see in yourselves by self-observation that is weak, lazy, self-pitiful, mean, narrow, prejudiced, ignorant, stupid, foolish, insincere, negative, jealous, revengeful, hurtful, suspicious, crooked, deceitful, inadequate, and 101 other similar things that belong to lower levels of being? Now suppose uncritical and sincere self-observation carried out with a sufficient and gradual passion begins to awaken an increasing dislike of what one is at present. I say, supposing that you begin to see that some of these things are in you, and that thou art the man, how can one deal with them? Only by inner separation, that is, by not ascribing them to oneself. This sounds very strange, and yet here lies one of the mysteries of the work. As long as you ascribe anything to yourself, you are identified with it, and therefore say I to it. Now I, in this sense, cannot fight with I. They are identical. For this reason, if a person begins to observe what is weak, or lazy, or self-pitiful, and so on, and to realize that such things exist in him, and ascribes them to himself, he will not be able to change. What you say I to can never change. Only by inner separation can anything change in a man. If he observes meanness in himself, or self-pity, and can say rightly, this is not I, then will that man, that woman, not be under the power of meanness or self-pity. For a moment he is free. In regard to all this, an increasingly delicate inner perception is required. At first everything is rough and violent. The formatory part which says, either this is true or it is not, is useless. In between the opposites, thinking has to be slowly heard by the mind, that is, relative thinking. Sometimes a thing is wrong, sometimes it is right. People want a definite answer, and so they are given stony commandments. They are written on tablets of stone. Thou shalt not, etc. This form of truth is external and not yet flexible, not yet water. But people who pride themselves on their downright common sense cling to the mental activity of the formatory centre, that is, the mechanical side of the intellectual centre, which can only think in terms of the opposites, that is, the pendulum, and has no third force. They wish to know always, is this right or is it wrong? All I ask is a plain definite answer. But truth as water is not like this. Now I return to this mystery of not ascribing our thoughts, moods, etc. to ourselves, and therefore saying always I to them. One has to be able to say, this is not I. Take thoughts. A thought comes to you. You say I to it. So you enter it, and then it has power over you. But you need not do so. When Christ said that what enters a man does not defile him, this was meant. For example, negative thoughts enter us continually. If you have no enclosure, nothing sealed off in yourself, they simply invade you and you are helpless in their power, and so you will act from them and express them in gesture, behaviour, or speech, or action. This comes out of you. then you are to be blamed. This is a fault in you, arising from lack of inner separation. Then you are a machine, chiefly driven by negative thoughts and feelings. But if you have a workplace in yourself and sacred to yourself, and stand in it at least 3 times a day, you separate from these unpleasant or evil thoughts or moods, which are not you, and nothing of them comes out from you. This is the beginning of creating something new in yourself, namely the work. From what has been said, it is now possible to disentangle and understand the psychological meaning of Christ's words, which referred apparently to literal food, richly prohibited, but which really meant psychological food, thoughts, moods, and so on. A man may have evil thoughts that enter him, but separates from them. He is guiltless. He cannot stop evil thoughts entering him, but they do not defile him. He can separate from them and not consent, not say I to them. Christ said, and this is from Mark, chapter 7, verses 14 to 23. Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing from without the man, that going into him can defile him, but the things which proceed out of the man are those that defile the man. And when he is entered into the house from the multitude, his disciples asked of him the parable. And he saith unto them, Are ye so without understanding also? Perceive ye not that whatsoever from without goeth into the man, it cannot defile him, because it goeth not into his heart, but into his belly, and goeth out into the draught? This, he said, making all meats clean. And he said, That which proceedeth out of the man, that defileth the man. Far from within, out of the heart of men, evil thoughts proceed, fornications, thefts, murders, adulteries, covetings, an evil eye, railing, pride, foolishness. All these evil things proceed from within and defile the man. Mark chapter 7, verses 14 to 23. When you identify with an evil thought, you act from it. It enters you and then comes out of you. The entry does not defile, but the act coming from it does. People are often disturbed by their thoughts. Their thoughts enter them from without. They think they are their thoughts, that they made them. This is wrong. The thoughts come to them. No one can think from himself, but people say they do. This is wrong. Thoughts come. Any kind of thought can enter you. Some thoughts are useful and need not be separated from. Thoughts fly into us from every quarter, as countless birds into a wide open cage, and pass on. But they are not our thoughts. But you can make them all your own by saying I, if you ascribe them to yourself. You think, I thought this. When you think from yourself, will from yourself, and imagine you did all you have done from yourself, and do not realize it is all mechanical. That is, when you ascribe everything of your life to yourself, you are asleep. You are asleep in life and asleep in yourself. When you perceive your thoughts come to you, and that you can identify or not with them, and when you also perceive you have no real will, but only the resultant of desires of many shifting eyes in conflict, then you begin to waken from sleep. You lose the life idea of yourself. This picture of yourself falls away like a skin, and something else begins to emerge, different from what you thought you were. You become aware of a whole set of new meanings. This is the beginning of psycho-transformism.